Hello, magical adventurers. Welcome to Fantasy Reimagined. Here fantasy stories come to life. Subscribe and hit the bell icon to join our enchanting journeys and never miss a new adventure. See you in the realms of wonder. Hello viewers, I have made some changes to Frieza's power level in this part, as Sun Tian has grown a bit overpowerful, but even so Frieza would not be any trouble for Sun Tian. I know some of you would be thinking that power levels are a bit ridiculous in this novel, but you've to understand that it's just a fan novel, and if main character was made overpowered from beginning it won't be so fun, right? I mean, if it were to be he would just blast everyone to scum and story won't be interesting, but you guys can give me your advice on something you don't like. Your support means the world to me. Although Piccolo did not rule the earth in a tyrannical manner after being recruited by Sun Tian, he is definitely not a peace-loving person. In recent years Vegeta and others have not been involved in expanding the territory, and most of the planets controlled by the Holy Land of Magic and Martial Arts were conquered by the Great Demon King. He has done a lot of things that destroy races, and is full of evil. He is not much less evil than Frieza. In order to develop the space industry, the people on Earth are naturally not peace-loving. There is no such thing as mercy in space wars, only the naked law of the jungle. However, the art of martial arts cannot be mastered quickly after just 1 or 2 battles. Even though Frieza is a genius, there is a limit to his improvement. It's just that in the early stage he suddenly encountered an opponent with equal strength, and gradually adapted to this level of fighting style. As Piccolo continued to intensify his attacks, his combat power, which was already 100,000% lower than that of the Great Demon King in normal conditions, naturally became more and more obviously defeated. Impossible. How could I be weaker than you with the same combat power? I don't believe it. Frieza suddenly increased his strength and forced Piccolo away. At this time Frieza had many scars on his body. He originally wanted to fight with the opponent on an equal basis, but he didn't expect to be beaten in the end. Frieza was angry. Suddenly the aura on Frieza's body exploded, forming a protective shield. Piccolo stopped attacking when he saw this. Is he going to transform? The Great Demon King used his taunting skills. But Frieza ignored him. As the seal was released, the aura on Frieza's body suddenly increased by more than 1 times. The originally short king suddenly developed normally, and his height increased by nearly 1 times. As the transformation was lifted, Frieza's figure was revealed. Feeling Frieza's aura, the Great Demon King Piccolo was also unsure and called him a pervert. Originally I thought Sun Tian might have heard it from hearsay, that the aura would be increased by 1 times if he transformed. But when I really felt the aura on Frieza now, I had to take it seriously. In fact, strictly speaking, Frieza's 3-stage transformation cannot be called a transformation. It is just to release his own power again, and Kavira's 4-stage transformation is a transformation in the true sense. Sun Tian has been observing Frieza's changes and feels that Frieza's method of controlling power by sealing is indeed desirable. At least so far, Sun Tian has not seen a better method. At this time Frieza had already completed the removal of a seal, and his combat power had recovered to 385 W. This combat power was already much higher than that of the Great Demon King. Not only that, the injuries he had suffered in the previous battle with the Great Demon King had also been fully recovered, and he did not look injured at all. The second round, let's begin. Frieza has regained his composure, and his cold eyes swept around. Frieza's subordinates, as if they were being stared at by some prehistoric monster, were all terrified. On the other hand, although Sun Tian's side felt Frieza's power, they were relatively calm. Frieza was furious. If he hadn't made a comparison he wouldn't have known. After this comparison, the king found that his subordinates were simply garbage. You bunch of bastards, each of you is embarrassing me. Go to hell. Frieza casually swung out countless qigongs, and the subordinates brought by the king, except for the technical personnel still in the spaceship, turned into ashes in fear. How cold-blooded, he killed his own subordinates without mercy. Qi Tian was only 14 years old after all. Although his combat power was amazing, he couldn't help but say, "Humph, this is killed for us to see, but it underestimated us too much," Vegeta said on the side. Opposite Frieza, Piccolo was speechless as he watched Frieza kill his subordinates. Since I've already transformed, I'll show some strength. Piccolo knew that if it was before, he wouldn't have to go through so much trouble, but now he had to take it seriously, otherwise he would die if he wasn't careful. The big devil took off his hat, and then took off his cloak. He threw it casually, and a deep pit several meters deep appeared on the ground. At the same time the Great Demon King's aura suddenly increased. If there was a detector, it would be found that Piccolo's combat power at this time had exceeded 200 W, reaching a terrifying 237 W, although it is still far behind Frieza's second transformation form of 385 W. With Piccolo's martial arts skills, he will not be easily defeated by the king. Oh, I didn't expect that you were still carrying weight-bearing equipment with your previous combat power. You bastard, you dare not use your full strength to fight against this king. You are looking for death. The first sentence was still an expression of surprise, and the king went crazy with the second sentence. Daring to look down on him, Frieza? Suddenly with a flash, Frieza disappeared on the spot. What, so fast? At least twice as fast as before. Piccolo was startled, and hurriedly felt Frieza's movement. Here. Piccolo punched the air. Bang. The two were knocked over by the airwaves and retreated far away. The Great Demon King retreated 100 meters to dissipate the impact, while the king only retreated less than 50 meters. Pico is at a disadvantage, Vegeta said. After all, the gap in strength is too big, there is nothing we can do about it, Sun Tian said. As for Chi Tian, he could no longer see the shadows of the two fighting. Latitz and Nappa could only barely keep up. Not bad, you can actually keep up with my movements. By the way, have you ever considered working for me? Frieza was also surprised. He didn't expect that after he lifted the seal and restored his strength to 385W, this Namekian could still keep up with his pace. Stop kidding, I can't beat you? Come again. Who is Piccolo? Even in the holy land of magic and martial arts he is the top spot. How could he work for others? Ha ha ha. The strong have their own pride, but I can tell you clearly that this is just a tiny part of my strength. It's not too late for you to join me now. Masters like you are much stronger than Jinyu and the others. Frieza really wanted to take in the Great Demon King. Fight first, said the Great Demon King Piccolo. You don't know how to live or die. Frieza snorted coldly. The two quickly fought again. Although Frieza's strength increased by more than double, this sudden increase in combat power could not be quickly converted into attack power. For a while, although Frieza attacked more than defended, every attack could always be predicted by Piccolo in advance and defended. It was difficult to gain an overwhelming advantage in a short period of time. Impossible. My current strength is obviously so much stronger than yours, how can I possibly block it? Frieza's brain was buzzing. Several times Frieza had clearly bypassed Piccolo's sight and attacked from behind, but in the next moment, he found that the Great Devil Piccolo seemed to have eyes on his back and was able to provide accurate defense. It has to be said that relying on Chi to sense the opponent's movements is more accurate than relying on the naked eye to judge. With Piccolo's own martial arts, plus the essence of martial arts passed down on Earth for hundreds of years, even if Piccolo's Chi is only about 2/3 of Frieza's, he can still fight Frieza on par. In a way, the martial arts of Earth are at least ranked in the forefront of the universe. However, before Sun Tian and his team established the magic martial arts Holy Land, most of the martial artists on Earth had a combat power of only a few hundred points. If they did not spend time on how to save strength and study moves, how could the martial artists on Earth squander their energy? They often wanted to divide 1 point of energy into 10 points. And now, even with the integration of the magic martial arts Holy Land, basic training is indispensable. If the people of the magic martial arts Holy Land come out, they can often defeat the strong with the weak. As long as they do not encounter an absolute crushing and the difference is not big, basically 80% of the people from the magic martial arts Holy Land will win. Fortunately, due to the limitation of the Earthling's bloodline, even with the cultivation of the magic martial Holy Land and the provision of sufficient resources, it is already amazing to reach a combat power of tens of thousands. Otherwise, when they develop, the entire universe will be left with no one else. Haha, Frieza, I thought you were terrifyingly strong, but I didn't expect that your understanding of strength is completely at the most primitive stage. How disappointing, Piccolo replied. Asshole, you dare to look down on me, go to hell. Frieza has given up trying to persuade Piccolo to surrender and just wants to trample him hard into the ground. Frieza completely gave up on technical attacks and just crushed Piccolo with force every time, forcing him to use more techniques to make up for it. As the battle went on, Frieza became more and more frightened, but fortunately he slowly adapted to this kind of battle, and Piccolo gradually fell into a disadvantage. After all, the difference in strength was too big. At the beginning he could still gain the advantage in realm, but as his energy was constantly consumed, even though his realm was much higher than Frieza's, he could not withstand Frieza's desperate attack. Haha, you dare to look down on me, the king? Go to hell! Frieza attacked madly, firing Qigong bombs like they were free. Piccolo gradually became exhausted and gasped for breath, but he still struggled to fight against the possessed Frieza. Suddenly Frieza seized a flaw and punched Piccolo more than 10 times in a row, forcing him to retreat step by step. Boom boom boom, the big devil was beaten into the ground. Frieza seized the opportunity, gathered an energy ball with a diameter of nearly 1,000 meters, and blasted it into the deep pit. No, it's dangerous. Sun Tian saw that the current big devil might not be able to withstand this attack. Sun Tian, who was still nearly 1,000 meters away, suddenly appeared in the attack path of the energy ball. Sun Tian lifted the ball with one hand, and the energy ball released by Frieza with all his strength was firmly held by Sun Tian. Go back. Sun Tian used one hand to push the energy ball back along the original path. What? How is that possible? Frieza knew how powerful this attack was, but he didn't expect it to be bounced back by someone with one hand. If this attack hits Piccolo, he may not die, but he will definitely lose his combat effectiveness. However, for Sun Tian this attack is nothing big. Frieza didn't react at all. First, Sun Tian was clearly 1,000 meters away, how could he suddenly appear below? Second, he didn't expect that his fatal attack would be ineffective. Looking at the energy ball getting closer and closer to him, Frieza broke out in a cold sweat. At the critical moment, Frieza slightly moved his body to the side for several hundred meters and barely avoided it. The energy ball whizzed into the sky. Boom, boom, boom. The aftermath of the explosion caused the area within a radius of several hundred kilometers to vibrate. The entire ground had been completely deformed. At this time, Sun Tian helped the big devil out. "Are you okay, Piccolo? He won't die. If it weren't for you, I would have been dead," the great demon king replied in shock. He didn't expect that a mad Frieza would be so terrifying. "That's good. Chi Tian, come and take good care of your uncle Piccolo." Sun Tian saw that Piccolo was fine and said to Chi Tian, "Okay, father." Chi Tian supported Piccolo and took him to the side. Frieza finally came to his senses. Before, Frieza always thought that Vegeta was the strongest among them, but what happened just now? Frieza knew that he was wrong, very wrong. The man in front of him, based on what he had just done, must have a combat power of no less than 10 million, otherwise he would not have been able to easily block his attack. Frieza was stunned. The man in front of him definitely had the ability to kill him, especially since most of his energy was sealed and could not be used at all. "Who are you?" Although he was a little frightened, he still asked. "Sun Tian, don't worry, I won't kill you before you transform," Sun Tian said. "Kakarot, leave it to me next." At this time, Vegeta flew over, as if he was afraid that Sun Tian would snatch his prey away. "Kakarot, this is the name of the Saiyans. Are you a Saiyan too?" Frieza couldn't believe it. Of course he basically wiped out the entire Saiyan race. Even if there were some wandering outside, they were constantly cleared out later, leaving only Vegeta and his two little followers. Now there's another Saiyan here, and his combat power is incredibly high. Frieza has reason to believe that even if he transforms into a demon form again, he may not be, no, definitely not be a match for the man in front of him. When did the Saiyans become so strong? The fighting power of Raditz and Nappa is beyond imagination, and Vegeta is even more unsure for him now. Frieza's head was buzzing with thoughts. Who am I? Where am I? Although Sun Tian is very interested in fighting, he can't muster the will to fight against Frieza now. "Okay, I'll leave it to you." Sun Dao saw Vegeta jump out. Although Vegeta might fight an evenly matched enemy normally, he would not do that to Frieza. If Piccolo had not taken the lead and had observed Frieza's strength, he would have rushed forward long ago. The proud Saiyan prince has been pursuing revenge since the destruction of planet Vegeta. It is remarkable that he has been suppressing it until now. "Frieza, today I will avenge my people." "Don't worry, I will not give you the chance to transform," Vegeta said, and then he launched a fierce attack on Frieza. With a combat power of more than 5 million, against Frieza with only 3.85 W combat power, for a moment, Frieza was completely powerless to resist. If it weren't for Frieza's strong physical defense, he would have been beaten to death by Vegeta. His martial arts realm is much higher than Frieza's, and his combat power is far stronger than Frieza's current one. Sun Tian and his party could not bear to look at him directly. Frieza, the Emperor of the Universe, has a combat power of nearly 300 million at full power, but he was brutally beaten by Vegeta because he had no chance to transform. I really want to know how big the psychological shadow of King Frieza is now. Frieza was panting heavily, one of his tails had been broken by Vegeta, and his entire left arm had been turned into nothingness alive. One word, miserable. 2 words, really miserable. Damn it, how could this happen? There is no power to fight back at all. Damn Saiyan. Frieza cursed in his heart. However, everyone was paying attention to the battlefield, and did not notice that a huge asteroid was heading towards the planet Cassie. Soon the asteroid entered the gravitational range of the planet Cassie and quickly passed through the atmosphere. When everyone discovered it, it had already rushed towards the planet. "Oh no, what is that?" Chi Tian pointed to the sky, a giant asteroid with a long flaming tail. Sun Tian's divine sense swept through it, but he couldn't penetrate it and peek into the interior of the asteroid. He didn't know what material it was that could prevent Sun Tian's divine sense from detecting it. Vegeta also noticed the situation and stopped attacking Frieza. "Everyone come to me, otherwise even we won't be able to withstand the force of the planet hitting the ground," Sun Tian called to everyone. Vegeta also knew that if such a large asteroid hit them, the destructive force would be beyond their ability to withstand, so he quickly sent out several energy balls in succession, blasting Frieza into the ground and returning to Sun Tian. Sun Tian directly opened the energy shield to protect the 5 people. His spiritual consciousness broke through the space and teleported directly to the other side of the planet. After a while, a loud bang came from afar. The asteroid finally hit the ground. For a moment the ground shook, and the beasts of the entire star bead fled in panic. After all, human power cannot resist natural disasters. In the face of the mighty power of nature, even if you have great cultivation and amazing combat power, you have to temporarily avoid the edge. Well, that's not right. Although this force is strong, it is far from the expected impact force. Sun Tian was the first to discover that something was wrong. It stands to reason that if such a huge asteroid meteorite hit the Earth, half of the Earth would be destroyed. Even though the planet Cassis is 100 times the size of the Earth, it shouldn't have such a powerful force. This asteroid of course did not come from natural causes, but this asteroid itself is a spaceship which was transformed by Slug into a giant spaceship suitable for interstellar navigation. Although it cannot completely resist the gravity of the planet Cassie after entering the planet, it will not fall freely. If that is the case, there is no need for others to destroy it. With this impact, I am afraid that everyone inside the spaceship except Slug will go to hell directly. However, this landing made Frieza suffer. He was beaten badly by Vegeta, with a broken tail and left arm. Now the arrival of Slug's spaceship directly destroyed King Frieza's spaceship, and all the people inside. Frieza was even more injured underground and almost fainted. The king may not have read the full calendar before going out, otherwise how could he have encountered so many bad things? Fortunately, Frieza finally escaped from Vegeta's destruction and recovered. After knowing about the Dragon Ball, Slug drove the Slug spaceship at full speed, and finally arrived at the planet Cal's at this moment. As for why he knew it was this planet, it was naturally inseparable from the information transmitted by the King of the Galaxy. Originally the King of the Galaxy saw that only Frieza went there alone, and felt that his plan to drive away the wolf had failed, but suddenly heard that Slug had left his nest. Naturally he would not miss this great opportunity. If Frieza and Slug could face each other, it would be perfect. So much so that after learning that Frieza was also thinking about the Dragon Ball, Slug had to turn on the shielding system of the spaceship, so that the spaceship pretended to be a planet and was captured by the gravity of the planet Cal's, directly forming the illusion of a planetary collision. Deep underground, Frieza finally seized the opportunity, and a force hidden deep in his body began to erupt, forming a light cocoon outside the body, and a strong air came from Frieza. Even if Sun Tian and his party were on the other side of the planet, they could feel this powerful breath. Oh no, Frieza has such a strong vitality that he didn't get killed even after being hit like this. It seems like he has started to transform, Vegeta said. Compared to this, I think this asteroid that suddenly appeared is very strange, Sun Tian replied. Known enemies are not scary, but unknown enemies are scary. Inside the Slagu spaceship, the elderly Slagu is preparing to arrange his subordinates to investigate the surrounding environment. Suddenly, an extremely strong energy came from deep underground. This energy was so strong that Slagu had only felt it from the Frozen clan. Oh no, what is that thing underground? This power is even more terrifying than when I was at my peak. Slagu was furious. This was a trap. They had clearly detected that the highest combat power of this planet was only over 5 million. That was why they dared to directly land the spacecraft on the battle site, with an attitude of dominance. But in the blink of an eye they did indeed dominance, but they landed in front of a prehistoric giant crocodile. Feeling the hidden power in his body constantly emerging, the injuries on his body slowly healed, Frieza regained his confidence, but just feeling the empty left arm, a burst of anger burst out from his heart. Vegeta, you dare to humiliate me like this, I will kill you, and that Namekian, Latit Snappa and that guy called Sun Tian and that kid all deserve to die. He cursed angrily, his heart was filled with rage. There are still 10 minutes left. You still have 10 minutes left. Despair. Feeling the transformation of his body, Frieza slowly mobilized this power to repair his injuries. This time, Frieza not only performed the second transformation, but also changed into the final form in one breath. Although the nearly 10 million combat power of the demon form is enough to directly beat the opponent, in order to make the opponent despair, Frieza decided to directly change into the final form, which is his original appearance. On the ground, inside the Slagu spaceship, Slagu felt the increasingly strong aura underground, and he actually had the intention to leave immediately. However, when Slagu thought that the Dragon Ball might be on this planet, he felt a little unwilling to do so. Slagu was like this, and his subordinates were even more unbearable. They were oppressed by this aura and crawled on the ground one by one. Not long after, a vibration came from the ground, and Slagu's spaceship slowly disintegrated in the vibration. A light cocoon slowly rose from the ground, and the air it passed through was directly turned into nothing by the energy around the light cocoon, except for a few powerful ones. All of Slugu's subordinates were wiped out by this energy. Even Slugu was blinded by this dazzling light. What on earth is it? Why is there such a powerful force? Slugu inexplicably felt that he was difficult to defeat. But Slug had no other options. His spaceship had been destroyed by Frieza's energy. Even if he wanted to leave, it was impossible. As for escaping, Slug, who had dominated the world, had never thought of it. Gradually, the light cocoon that enveloped Frieza slowly shrank and eventually disappeared. The smoke surrounding Frieza slowly dissipated. I saw a creature less than 1.5 meters tall, with a delicate appearance and a slowly swinging tail. It looked a little miniature, and appeared in the center where the light cocoon disappeared. My lord, it's appeared! The creature has appeared, said one of Slagu's subordinates in horror. You don't have to tell me, I'm not that old yet. Slagu saw the miniature figure in front of him and felt that he had seen it somewhere. Who is it? He looks familiar. After all, Slug's forces are not in the northern galaxy, otherwise with the speed of his spaceship he would not be behind Frieza and arrive now. Kira? No, he just looks a bit like him, but not as scary as Kira. Could it be Frieza? Yes, it should be. I remember fighting with Kavira 100 years ago, and the other party seemed to have mentioned their clan. bad memories emerged from the depths of Slug's memory. Back then Slug was not old, and was at his peak. He traveled across the southern galaxy without a single defeat. But one day, another force suddenly rose up, and that was Kuvira. The battle between Slagu, who had nearly million combat power at the time, and Kuvira was a shame in Slagu's life. Although he suppressed Kuvira at the beginning, with Kuvira's transformation, Slagu knew for the first time that there was a being far superior to him in the universe. Facing Kuvira, whose combat power reached 270 million, if Slagu had not had an advantage in martial arts, he would have been dead. In the end, he escaped from Kuvira after using all his trump cards. If Kuvira did not understand Chi, and only saw things in the world with his naked eyes, even Slagu, who restrained his breath, would have been hard to escape. It was after that battle that Slug had been hiding in his own planet. Slug, if he was not too old now, and wanted to use the DragonBallZ to restore his youth, I'm afraid Slug would still be hiding in some corner until now. After feeling Frieza's aura, it was about 150 million. If Slug was in his prime, he would have dared to fight with his martial arts. But Slug is old now, and his combat strength is only about 36 million. Even if he burns his lifespan and recovers his peak combat strength in a short time, he can't last long. Suddenly Frieza moved and appeared in front of Slug. "Namek?" Frieza asked. Although he was different from King Piccolo, Slug's appearance and skin were the same as Piccolo's, but he was not as energetic as Piccolo. "How dare you look directly at King Slug?" one of Slug's men shouted. Bang! With a casual swing of a Qigong bullet, Slug's subordinate who had just spoken turned into ashes. Slug's other subordinates were as if they were facing a great enemy. This method of killing people at will made them extremely afraid. Although they are also the ones who do all kinds of bad things and kill people at will, they will still be afraid when it really comes to them. "Who are you? Who is Kuvira to you?" Slug asked. "Slug? Haha, I know, the Namekian who calls himself a demon and hides in the South Milky Way and dares not show his face." Frieza had naturally heard of Slug, and knew his background very clearly, but it was just the first time he saw the real person. "Asshole, if I weren't old you wouldn't be so arrogant," Slug said angrily. As the saying goes, don't hit someone in the face. Frieza came up and exposed Slug's scars. Naturally, Slug didn't look good. "Haha, a guy who was beaten by the growing period of Kuvira and dared not show up. Tell me, where are those people just now?" Frieza asked in a condescending tone. Slagu was furious. A guy with half his arm broken dared to speak to him like that. "Who are you? There was no one else here when I arrived? It seems that you are a member of the Kuvira tribe. In that case, I will put the blame on you." Shlake was very angry. First his starship was destroyed by this guy in front of him, and then he was interrogated naked like a criminal. And this guy was obviously a member of his enemy, Kuvira's tribe. Slug didn't even think about it. When his own starship came, it directly crushed Frieza's spaceship into slag. Frieza just followed the trend and gave him a taste of his own medicine. Of course Frieza, whose life was indirectly saved by Slug, would not be grateful. Now that he has recovered to his original appearance, he naturally went to Slug. Who asked Sun Tian and others to teleport away before they came? Two tigers facing each other. It is inevitable to fight. On the other side of the planet Kals, Sun Tian and others wanted to go back directly to see what was going on, but Frieza's transformation and the appearance of Slug made the 6 people temporarily put an end to this idea. Although Vegeta and the other 5 can sense through Chi, it is not as direct as Sun Tian's consciousness after all. They don't know what happened on the other side. They only know that Frieza's Chi explosion is nearly 50 times longer, and another force has also appeared. But Sun Tian used his spiritual sense to scan the other side of the planet and got a clear picture of the situation. Therefore, Sun Tian stopped everyone from going there immediately. The key point was that if they went there now, except for him, the other 5 people would not be able to play a role. It is better to wait and see what happens before making plans. On the other side of the planet, Slug had been completely angered by Frieza. Although Slug was old, it was not a battle between Earth and France. As a Nanak, he naturally had many extraordinary features. "Frieza, right? You look disabled, yet you dare to be so arrogant. I think you are looking for death," Slug said angrily. And Frieza was also angry. What Frieza hates most now is probably that others say he is disabled. He did not transform in time because of his arrogance. Otherwise, how could he be beaten so badly by Vegeta? Although his tail has recovered after the transformation, it is very difficult to regenerate his left arm. You're looking for death. When the king is angry, naturally someone will suffer. Before Sluggu could react, several of his subordinates were killed by the Free Alliance, with only a few 100,000 combat power. Facing the king's combat power of 150 million, it is simply a meal. As for Sluggu, this guy who constantly attracts hatred, he will naturally be killed last. Sluggu knew that he was facing the greatest threat. He had no choice but to use all his strength, even if it would greatly reduce his lifespan. "Roar!" Sluggu shouted loudly, and his originally old body and loose skin changed rapidly. After a while he seemed to have returned to his youth, and an evil aura emanated from his body. "You're looking for death. Do you really think I'm a weakling?" Slug's voice was no longer vicissitudes but became thicker. However, Slug's heart was bleeding. He had lost nearly 20 years of his lifespan at one time. For Slug, who already had a short lifespan, it was simply adding insult to injury. His hatred for Frieza was sky high. With a combat power of 80 million, Slug at his peak would not be afraid even when facing Frieza. Frieza was also shocked. Comparing the two, Frieza knew that although Slug might not be as powerful as himself, he already had the strength to fight him. The two men quickly fought together and clashed again. Frieza did not have much advantage this time, and Slug knew that even if he recovered to his peak combat power, he would still be inferior to Frieza. So as soon as the battle started, he used his unique skills to double his combat power. For a while the two men were evenly matched. No, to be precise, Frieza was at a disadvantage. After all, in the realm of martial arts, Slug was far better than Frieza. Impossible, no wonder you were able to escape from Kira. I underestimated you, Frieza said angrily. He did not expect Slug to be so fierce when he was furious. Humph, Kira was much stronger than you back then. Get ready to die. Slug, who wanted to end the battle quickly. After all, the power gained by burning his lifespan could not last long. The special move that could increase the combat power by 2 times would also consume a lot of energy. For a moment, Slug forced Frieza to retreat step by step with fewer attacks and more defense. Asshole. Frieza felt that he was extremely unlucky. First he met Piccolo, then he was beaten by Vegeta, and almost couldn't take care of himself. He finally escaped from Vegeta's clutches, successfully lifted the seal, and restored his combat power to 150 million, but then he met Slug. No matter what, even if it costs me some life, I will beat you. Frieza seized an opportunity, forced Slug away with one blow and quickly distanced himself from him. Frieza began to gather his energy, and his already terrifying aura quickly increased. He directly increased his strength to 70%. The combat power increased from 150 million to 210 million. What? You can actually increase your energy? Slug was shocked. No, we must interrupt him or else we'll be in trouble. Slug suddenly stretched out one arm and grabbed Frieza directly. You bastard! Frieza quickly dodged. Of course, Slug would not give Frieza any chance to build up his energy and quickly launched an offensive. However, Frieza, who already had a combat power of 210 million, was able to cope with Slug's attack even if he had lost his left arm. The battle continued. At this moment, Frieza had completely forgotten the existence of Sun Tian and his group on this planet. Compared with Sun Tian and his group, Slug showed a fighting power that was undoubtedly more than one level higher. As long as Slug was defeated, even if Sun Tian and his group came together, they would not be a threat to him. Although Slug recovered his peak fighting power with the forbidden technique, as time passed he was slowly beaten back to his original form, while Frieza was always at his peak fighting power. Boom! Frieza finally seized the opportunity and severely injured Slug. I won't give up. If I hadn't aged, I would never have failed. Slug was unwilling to give up. After being defeated by Kfira, he was defeated by the Ice Clan again. But there was no other way. Frieza was much stronger than him at the moment. If he was at his peak, he could still suppress him with his martial arts. But as the battle continued, Slug was beaten back to his original form. He could have defended himself before, but now he could only passively take the beating. Suddenly, Frieza rose into the sky, and an energy ball with a diameter of nearly 1,000 meters formed at his fingertips. It's over. Haha. No, I won't give in. Slagu looked at the energy ball shooting towards him, but due to his severe injuries he couldn't avoid it at all. Boom boom boom. Frieza's energy ball hit him head-on, and Slug could only barely gather his strength to form a protective shield to protect himself from being fully affected by the explosion. With the explosion of the energy ball, the shape of the entire ground was changed again. A huge hole several thousand meters deep appeared on the spot, and the fiery red magma rushed directly into the sky. It was unknown whether Slagu was still alive. Frieza was also shocked when he saw the ground after the smoke dissipated. He did not expect that this planet was so solid. If it was an ordinary planet, it would probably be destroyed if it was hit head-on by this highly compressed energy ball. But this planet actually took it like this. Only the terrain changed and magma emerged. This guy should be dead now. Frieza looked at the fiery red magma in the big hole. Slug was indeed finished, but he was not dead yet. If Frieza could sense the air, he would know that Slug was hiding behind a huge rock a few thousand meters away, but he was not far from death. Slug was already old, and he forcibly performed forbidden techniques to lose his lifespan to return to his peak combat power. Now he was severely injured by Frieza. It was not easy for him to cross thousands of meters in the magma and escape here. Now that his forbidden technique is backfired, his fighting power is reduced to 1% and he looks even older and more miserable. He doesn't need anyone to kill him, and he will probably die of natural causes in a short time. But now that the spaceship is destroyed, Frieza can't leave the planet for the time being. Although Frieza can survive in the universe, it is unknown how long it will take to cross the void with his physical body. Without enemies, Frieza can only explore the planet and try to find the base or spaceship of Sun Tian and others. Unfortunately, what Frieza didn't know was that Sun Tian and his team came to this planet not by flying a spaceship, but by using the most advanced interstellar teleportation technology. It was destined to be a fruitless effort. On the other side of the battlefield, Sun Tian was naturally aware of the situation here, but facing Frieza, whose combat power reached 210 million, except for Sun Tian, the others had basically no chance of winning. Brother Yu, Chi Tian and Nappa stay here, and be careful not to be discovered by Frieza. Piccolo, Vegeta, the three of us will go, Sun Tian said. Okay, you guys should also pay attention. Frieza is too strong now, don't force it. At worst we can just teleport away and trap Frieza on this planet. Raditz also knew through Sun Tian that although Frieza had lost his left arm, his combat power of 210 million was too terrifying. Don't worry, I will pay attention. After saying that, Sun Tian formed an energy shield around him, covering Piccolo and Vegeta, breaking through the space and appearing directly on the battlefield. The sudden appearance of Sun Tian and the other two startled Frieza, who was about to leave. Even Frieza was afraid of this silent appearance. It's you. I didn't expect you would dare to show up, but that's okay. I can just catch you all in one fell swoop. Frieza was stunned at first, then he laughed wildly. That's right. If Sun Tian and the others hid, even if Frieza wanted to leave the planet, it would take at least several years. It would probably take him many more years to avenge his broken arm. You are Frieza? Vegeta had never seen Frieza's true form. When he suddenly saw this miniature monster in front of him, he would not have believed it if he had not felt the evil aura that disgusted him. Vegeta, you beat me up so badly just now. I didn't expect you to come here too. Frieza was afraid of Sun Tian, but he really hated Vegeta. He almost died at the hands of Vegeta not long ago. Frieza, do you think we dare to come back and will be afraid of you? Really? It seems like you think I'm still the same person as before. If that's the case, then go to hell. As soon as he finished speaking, Frieza disappeared from his sight. Vegeta suddenly felt a sense of crisis, a feeling that his life was being controlled. Suddenly Frieza appeared behind Vegeta and punched Vegeta. Oh no, there's no way to hide. Bang! The sound of fists colliding was heard, but Vegeta was not attacked. Sun Tian's figure slowly disappeared beside Vegeta. At some point he appeared in Frieza's attack path and blocked Frieza's blow with one punch, forcing him to move away dozens of meters. Vegeta was shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. If Sun Tian hadn't helped him block this blow, he would have been seriously injured even if he didn't die. It was too fast and he couldn't react at all. At this moment Vegeta finally realized the gap between himself and Sun Tian. It's you. Who are you? Frieza was also shocked by Sun Tian's speed. Although I already knew that Sun Tian was extraordinary, it was not until I actually faced him that I realized I had underestimated my opponent. Frieza thought that with his current fighting power he could easily kill Vegeta and others in seconds, but the opposite happened. In the first confrontation he was knocked dozens of meters away by Sun Tian. Didn't I tell you? I'm Sun Tian, of course I have another name, Kakarot. Sun Tian answered seriously. Saiyan. All the Saiyans except Vegeta were destroyed along with planet Vegeta. Who are you? Facing the unknown, even a strong man like Frieza felt a little panic. Looking at Sun Tian in front of him, Frieza recalled the destruction of planet Vegeta. Suddenly a figure appeared in Frieza's mind. It was a Saiyan with a cross scar on his face. When he used the planet destroyer, he broke through many obstacles. He looked almost exactly like Sun Tian. Although the man was trying to stop the car with his arms, his momentum must have left a deep impression on Frieza. It's you. You are the descendant of that wild monkey. Yes, I'm afraid only he can give birth to such an outstanding son like you, Frieza said. Could it be that the legend is true, and you have transformed into a Super Saiyan? Otherwise, how could you be my opponent? As if he remembered something, Frieza looked horrified. After all, this was the ancestral motto passed down in the clan. Be careful with the Saiyans. If you see them, make sure to exterminate them with all your strength. Otherwise, once they evolve into Super Saiyans, they will become the biggest threat to our race. The ancestral teachings in my memory appeared in my mind again. When Frieza thought of this ancestral precept, he began to regret it. You know, more than 100 years ago, their tribe began to be active in the northern galaxy. When they found the Saiyans living on planet Vegeta, they wanted to destroy them directly. But the Saiyans at that time were too weak, with a combat power of no more than 10,000, which was really difficult to compare with the Super Saiyans in their ancestral precepts. At that time it was Claude who directly subdued the Saiyans with his strength and made them serve them. Of course, on the one hand, it was for surveillance, and on the other hand, it was for observation, to understand what was different about the tribe that had to be careful of the ancestral precepts. But after observation, it was found that the Saiyans at that time had basically no characteristics except that they were warlike and had a high average combat power. Later, Claude was injured and handed over his forces to the young Frieza. Although Frieza also had the intention to destroy this tribe in his heart, he never took action. Until one day, a terrifying existence came and ordered Frieza to destroy planet Vegeta. Frieza then went along with it, but he also left behind Vegeta, who was known to be the most talented at the time, and 2 little followers in order to continue observing. Even Vegeta, who was known to have the greatest talent, had a final combat power of only 18,000. This was also the reason why when Vegeta and others faked their deaths, Frieza did not investigate further and simply did a simple search and left the matter alone. But today first Raditz combat power exploded, far exceeding the strength of the Saiyans, and then even after transforming to more than 380W combat power, Vegeta beat him without any chance to fight back. Now it's even worse. Frieza, who is already transformed to the ultimate and used 70% of his combat power, with a combat power of more than 200 million, was suppressed by an insignificant Saiyan. I'm not a Super Saiyan, but if you insist, you can think of me as a Saiyan with Super Saiyan strength, Sun Tian replied. Isn't it true? In the initial stage of Super Saiyan, W transformation times increase W combat power, and Sun Tian's current basic combat power is W, and the violent bloodline increases times 300 million combat power, which is not comparable to ordinary Super Saiyans. In addition to his various magical powers, let alone Super Saiyans, even if they surpass Super Saiyans, they can resist. No matter who you are, you will die today. I will use 100% of my power, even if my lifespan is shortened. Frieza was a little sad. Once he used 100% of his power, his combat power could have reached about 350 million. But because he had not transformed before, Vegeta broke one arm and one tail. Although the tail recovered after the transformation, the arm could not be restored for the time being. Frieza clenched his hand, and a violent breath gushed out of his body. Frieza, who was already terribly strong, was constantly strengthened. His slender and mini body became full and swollen. Vegeta, Piccolo, please move away or I won't be able to take care of you. Sun Tian was not going to interrupt Frieza's gathering of energy. When Frieza descended, he had estimated that even if Frieza was intact and used 100% of his strength, he would at most be equal to him in terms of strength. Now that Frieza had a broken left arm, he was no match for Sun Tian. Vegeta and Piccolo retreated several thousand meters away, leaving the battlefield to Sun Tian and Frieza. This aura? It seems to be the guy who just fought with Frieza. Lord Piccolo suddenly sensed a faint breath, and it was somewhat similar to his own aura. On the back of a rock, Sluggo was half paralyzed, leaning against a huge stone. Sluggo had been so powerful throughout his life, but he did not expect that he would suffer such a disaster in his later years, being defeated by the Ice Clan repeatedly, and this time he might even lose his life. As Piccolo sensed the energy and got closer, he suddenly discovered that the owner of this energy actually looked very different from him. Although he was not long for death, he still exuded the air of a decayed and old man. The big devil fell to the ground and looked at Sluggo in front of him. Are you Namekian? Piccolo tried to ask. Slug opened his hazy old eyes with difficulty and looked at the man in front of him who was much younger than him and looked similar to him. Namek. Haha, what a long-lost name. I didn't expect that after all my life I, Slug, would have a fellow tribesman to see me off at the end of my life. Slug thought of many things. Sent to the planet Sligo since childhood, Sligo, who was born with an evil heart, showed a unique talent since childhood. In less than 20 years, he conquered the planet Sligo and achieved unification, demonizing the entire planet. Later, he continued to conquer the universe and met no rivals. But more than 100 years ago, a frozen demon named Kfira came to him and wanted to use him for himself. But who is Sligo? He has always conquered others, so how could he be used by others one day? The two inevitably fought, but Kfira's overwhelming combat power made Sligo panic. In the end, he used forbidden techniques to escape back and never dared to show up easily. Therefore Sligo, who would have taken hundreds of years to grow old, slowly aged because of this battle. This time, when Sligo heard about the Dragon Ball, he knew that this might be his only chance, but he didn't expect to meet the Frozen Demon Clan again. Sligo hated the Frozen Clan in his heart, but what can he do? Since ancient times the winners are the kings and the losers are the bandits. I can't save you in your current state. If you bring the Dragon Balls out this time you can ask Lord Shenlong to help you, but this is a trap set for Frieza, Piccolo said. Frieza. When Sligo heard this name he was filled with hatred. The moment he saw Piccolo, he knew that the rumor about the Dragon Ball was not false but it was true. But now he could no longer support this tribe member to get the Dragon Ball to save his life. Of course, even if he could save him, Piccolo might not save him. After all, Sligo is not a good person at first glance. Do you have any other wishes? As a member of the tribe I will try my best to help you fulfill them. Even though Piccolo is a demon, this is the first time he has seen another living member of the tribe. Not counting the god Piccolo. Wish, haha, everything is my original wish. If I didn't want to seize the Dragon Balls to restore my youth it wouldn't be like this. At least I can survive for a few more decades, Sluggo panted and smiled a little sadly. Suddenly Slug looked at Piccolo in front of him. Although Slug was dying, his perception of chi was still very sharp. He was full of demonic energy, and at first glance he was also a person who had fallen into the demon tribe. His breath was long and lingering. Although it was far inferior to his peak period, it was rare for a Namekian to reach this level. The physical strength of this tribe member could fully withstand his power. If it was just a tribe member of tens of thousands, Slag would have to wait for his life, but this one in front of him had a demon heart and was powerful enough. We are of the same clan and origin, and the devilish energy is overwhelming. Maybe my wish can still be realized. If that's the case, there's no hope for him to enter the underworld. But after all, he's a demon king. Slug knows that even after death he will definitely go to hell. Rather than that, it doesn't matter if he's gone from this world. What's wrong with you? At this time Piccolo's voice came, interrupting Sluglo's thoughts. Ha ha ha, do you want to help me fulfill my original wish? In that case, please stretch out your hand, Sluglo said. Piccolo saw that Sluglo was already on the verge of death, but he also knew that this kind of demon had many tricks, so he didn't dare to be careless. If it weren't for the status of being a member of the same clan, I'm afraid he would have sent him to death with one move. What do you want to do? Even though we are of the same race, don't have any bad intentions. Piccolo did not reach out his hand but questioned. You are indeed a demon. Even if you are of the same race, you should be on guard. That's good. I was afraid that you were not thoughtful enough to fulfill my wish. Seeing Piccolo like this, Slug did not find it strange. Don't worry, since you are a Namekian, you should know a characteristic of our race, right? Sluglo said. When we encounter a crisis that cannot be resolved, we can assimilate. With a certain tribe as the main force, the other tribesmen are willing to break their souls and transfer all their strength to the designated person, so that the strength of the tribe members can be multiplied, Slug continued. You mean assimilation? Although Piccolo knew it, he had never thought about it. After all, his body did not want to be attacked by external forces. Yes, assimilation. I am dying soon. Since we meet, I will give you a chance, but please kill Frieza and Kira for me. If possible, destroy the Frozen clan. Slug was filled with hatred at this moment. In that case, come on, but there is one thing I want to make clear. If you dare to play any tricks, I will stop you immediately and separate you, Piccolo warned, reaching out to touch Slug. Ha ha ha, I'm giving you good fortune. Accept my power, my people, and then you must avenge me. Slug grabbed Piccolo's hand and said angrily. In order to let Piccolo down his guard, Slug shattered his soul, turned it into an essence, attached it to the great demon king, transformed all his strength into vitality, and transmitted it to him. Aha, feeling the power coming, Piccolo couldn't help but roar. After a while, Slug's entire body disappeared. From then on, there was no Slug in the world. There was only Piccolo who inherited Slug's power. Haha, this power is too strong, incredible. This is the power of assimilation. It has increased by more than 100 times compared to before. Piccolo felt the changes in his body and laughed crazily. At the same time, Vegeta, Sun Tian and others also felt the changes here. Only Frieza didn't know that he had another terrifying enemy. Although no one knew what happened to Piccolo, his aura suddenly increased to more than 300 million. This power was enough to easily suppress Frieza. This aura is Uncle Piccolo. What happened? Chi-Tian said on the other side of the planet. I don't know, why did it suddenly increase so much? Raditz and Nappa were also surprised. So powerful, worthy of being Uncle Piccolo, this aura is even stronger than Frieza's. Chi-Tian felt as if he was powerful himself. Here, Piccolo was already familiar with this explosive force. After comparing it, Piccolo felt that he was invincible. Even if it was Sun Tian, Piccolo had the confidence to deal with him again. On the other side, Frieza used 100% of his strength. He thought he could easily deal with Sun Tian, but he fell into danger. Sun Tian directly used the bloodline rage magic, and for a moment his aura also reached an astonishing 300 million. Coupled with the fighting field, Frieza was horrified to find that the power he was proud of was actually suppressed by 10%. Originally he was only equal to Sun Tian in strength, but now he was suppressing Sun Tian with his own strength, while Sun Tian's strength increased significantly in the field. Even without using skills and realm suppression, Frieza was at a disadvantage in the battle of strength. After less than 100 rounds of fighting, Frieza had been beaten by Sun Tian, and was injured all over his body. How miserable it was. Impossible, how is it possible? I have used all my strength, why can't I win? Frieza roared angrily, but it was all in vain. It was difficult for Frieza to maintain 100% of his energy, and his energy kept decreasing. Just accept your fate, Frieza. You can't beat me. Then he punched Frieza to the ground. As the Emperor of the Universe, when has he ever suffered such humiliation? At this moment, Piccolo, who had completed the assimilation, also came to the battle center. What's going on? Why is my strength suppressed? Piccolo, who suddenly broke into Sun Tian's territory, was shocked. Pico, what a great fortune. I didn't expect that the biggest winner in this business is you. Sun Tian looked at Piccolo, who broke into the battlefield. Ha ha ha, of course I'm the great demon king Piccolo, Piccolo said proudly. Turning around and looking at the badly beaten Frieza, Piccolo immediately thought it was better not to provoke Sun Tian. Frieza, do you still remember me? You are the Namekian, why do you feel different? Although Frieza could not sense the energy, the feeling of oppression brought by the appearance of Piccolo was real. He just couldn't understand how Piccolo, who had a combat power of only 200 W before, could transform into a being that could rival himself in just a dozen minutes. By the way, your old friend Slagu asked me to bring you a message. Slagu? What are you talking about?